While you're here, let's talk about that debate. We've heard some laughs coming there. Very funny from Jimmy Fallon. It is the earliest debate, general election debate, in recent memory. And frankly, the stakes couldn't be much higher. Both men have real questions to answer. We know the Biden campaign hopes to use this moment to remind America just who Donald Trump is, what he did while in office, and to make the case that the next 4 years, if he were to win, would be far worse.
The stakes are high for both. I actually think there's a higher upside and downside for Biden, to be honest with you. I think there's so much riding on it for him. I mean, the concern for Biden, obviously, and you see it in the jokes, is obviously, is he up to it? Does he have the energy? Does he have the stamina? I think if he comes up very short, it's going to be devastating. I think, oddly enough, Trump, his crazy is more built in. If he hasn't, the one thing is if he's meandering, if he's crazy, if he says ridiculous things, for some reason, it doesn't have as devastating effect as what seems to be Biden's Achilles heel. So there's a lot at stake for both of them. Biden needs, I think if Biden does great, it's going to be amazing. I think if he does poorly, it's going to be really, really hurtful to him. But there's more of an up and down side for some reason for Biden.
So, Claire, let's remember, of course, that in 2020, Biden bested Trump both times in their debates. The first one, famously so, when Trump was angry and sweaty and kept interrupting him, and it turned out was likely positive for COVID. The diagnosis came a couple of days later. So what are some of your expectations for this debate? How big do you think the stakes are?
I think it's pretty big. I mean, if you are into presidential politics, this is the Super Bowl on steroids. It is a big deal. Now, I do think that Biden has a secret advantage. It's not secret, though. That is that Donald Trump has been saying for months he can't even walk or talk. There have never been expectations set as lowly as the expectations, or lower than the expectations that have been set for Biden. And in fact, even Trump realizes he's got a problem, because I think he said the other day on a podcast that Biden is a worthy debater. Which, of course, is like, what? I thought this is the guy who can't function, who has to have, And so I do think that if Biden comes out and is aggressive, what he says is not as important as how he says it. And he's got to be a street fighter. But he's comfortable doing that. He is comfortable. He's Scrappy Joe from Scranton can come out and throw haymakers, because deep down, or maybe not so deep down, he doesn't respect Trump, and he will have no problem, I think, going after him with hammer and tongs, and that's what he's got to do.
Jonathan, the odd thing about this debate, it seems to me, is that both of the candidates want the other candidate to be entirely themselves.
Right.
And like the most kind of extreme version of themselves. And that's the aim for them both, right? The Biden camp liked the idea of Trump's mic being muted. They pushed for that format. Do you think there's a world in which that's not necessarily the most advantageous format for them? Because actually Trump lost that early 2020. It wasn't even a debate. Oh, my God, I still have PTSD from that debate. But he lost that performance.
Too soon.
Because he jumped in too much. He was too aggressive. He interrupted too much.
No, it's a really good insight, which is, where do you find that line between exposing Trump's true self, but also not having such a free-for-all that the whole thing becomes kind of forgettable because it's such a S show. I won't say the full word.
That was the word I wanted.
Yeah, exactly. And right, it's a really good insight. Do you lose the possibility of exposing Trump because you lose the mic, and so you lose some of his most crazy comments or asides? That's a real possibility. But it goes to the heart, Caddy, of this entire campaign. I can't recall covering a presidential campaign or even reading about one where each campaign wanted the race to be about the other person.
So much.
I mean, most candidates and their strategists covet attention and want the race to be about them and want to control the message. I mean, the end goal for both of these candidates, and they would never admit this out loud, was they want to make it about the other guy, because their best path to victory is making it about the other guy.
Jonathan,
right?
to Claire's point, I think that it's a smart point, and I've heard it as well from both sides. If Biden doesn't have a good night, how much anxiety is there going to be in Democratic circles?
I don't think that the Richter scale is capable of measuring that. I think it would go off the charts. In part, Candy, because it's so much time, right? I mean, we're going into July here, and so the sort of waves of anxiety would be felt all summer, like waves crashing in through, every day on the beach. And it would be hard to sort of dissipate. And it would also raise the question of, would Trump do a second debate, too, right? If it was that bad for Biden, would there even be a second debate? Obviously, they'd want one to clean it up, but would Trump give them one? That'd be the question.
You would want those images to remain.
Well, the speculation about Biden being replaced, which still exists, by the way, and a lot of swamps on the right, it's just really hard to see, absent a health issue, because Biden doesn't want to walk away. And there's nobody in the party that's going to make him.
Yeah, that's clear. That talk of Biden leaving is nonsense, short of, as you say, J. Martin, some sort of health issue. At least, though, there's obviously so much focus on Biden needing a strong performance. But Donald Trump also, as we have been talking about here for months and months, is not the same guy he was in 2020. He's also aged. He's just a few years younger than President Biden. He's shown real signs of slippage at times, harder to stay coherent in his thoughts. Isn't that possibly an outcome next week, too? Is it's actually Trump is the one who comes out of there having a terrible night?
Yes, but also it's so built in that Trump is going to say crazy, insane things and is capable of doing completely insane things. You look at some of his antics back in 2016 and bringing Bill Clinton accusers to the debate against Hillary Clinton. He's not going to shy away from anything that's incredibly dirty and nasty, and he probably is going to just relish in his attacks against Hunter Biden, trying to get under Joe Biden's skin. So Americans are used to seeing him at just his most base, terrible, raw self, and Joe Biden has unfortunately to hew to the higher standard of being seen as presidential.
Okay, debate prep fully underway, looking different on both sides, but it is underway. Let's switch.